Hello. Hello, welcome to Everyday Ordinary Extraordinary Podcast. I'm Martina and I'm here with Christina.
Hello, everyone.
And we are your podcast hosts. And we were inspired to create this podcast after pondering on this question. What would the world look like where we can be inspired by every person? Like usually we're very quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody is losing. So depending on my point of view, I can either feel small because I come out lacking, or arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. And those are the only two options. And neither of those options make us feel great. So here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from first impressions. And we invite you, the listener, to go beyond first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner in everyone, if we're willing to look. And today we're here with Kerrie. Kerrie, do you want to say hi? Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is legally it's Kerrie March. I'm a licensed body worker who's works with people's nervous system to get them into the thriving state. There's a lot of people that suffer from a lot of stress and can't meditate, and their body forgets literally how to be in that blissful state, which we should be in most of the time. And so I help them with that, but I also help them with their dogs as well. I'm also a certified dog trainer, and I love helping people with their dogs. And when people come to my house for a session, my dogs, one, two, four, six, whatever, might come into the room to help assist with my clients, depending on what my clients' needs are. So I've been licensed massage therapist for I think 13 or 14 years. I have to look at the dates there, but I've was introduced to Reiki many years ago when I was in my 20s. I know I still look like I'm 25, but I'm really not. I'm above 55, let's just say that.
That's funny. So, Kerrie, who you are for me is like I've seen you in the last, wow, is it? It's almost 2 years. It's soon going to be 2 years. I've seen you just blossom and bring out your fun self so much more, step into your power so much more. And definitely your pixie self, right? It's like that's what I see when I think of you. It's like flitting around from place to place, and here I am, and I'm gonna play, and it's just so beautiful to have you on. Thank you so much for being here. And can you finish this sentence for me? If we really knew you, what would we know about you?
Probably about how sensitive I really am and how much I love everybody, and I think everybody who I meet is important, and I think everybody should be noticed, whether it's an animal or a person. Yeah, and I'm very I need my quiet time. I need my downtime for sure. And I just have a strong, strong passion for helping, especially I've always been an animal lover, so I have a strong passion for helping animals. And I just love learning. I just love learning. Even though I almost flunked out of high school, I love learning. When I was into horse training, I went to like as many clinics as I can with all these like Olympic type clinicians. I have so many CEUs as a licensed massage therapist. It's just ridiculous because I'm so curious about the body, the physical part, the energy part, and the mental part. So I just love to learn.
Kerrie,
That's
I can so relate to that struggle in school. I was the same way myself, but I think it was just that the subjects didn't interest me. And once I became an adult and could choose, then all I want to do was study, right? I just want to be learning about the things that I'm curious about, right? So yeah, I can completely relate to that. Like choosing massage school was a huge struggle for me because my story about myself was I was shitty in science. How could I take anatomy and physiology and neurology and but once I got that that was truly my calling, those classes became so easy. So yeah, I can so relate to that conversation. It's really brilliant.
Well, let me just say too, what I think is fascinating, like, and your wording in it is it's the body and it's the like all aspects, right? It's not just the physical body, it's the emotional and the mental. It's that's what I hear in what you're saying and what interests you in the work you do, which is like the whole human being, right?
Yeah.
We usually move around as the mental, right? It's just our head that dictates everything, but there's so much more in in proper functioning of this human being that we are. So beautiful.
Yeah, and you have part of healing is seeing where the person, meeting where the person is at. Some people still want me to, use my killer elbows, right? And because they think the pain they're gonna get more relief from their discomfort. And it's not true, you could actually do more damage. And there's so many layers to why you have this discomfort or trauma in your body. And you want to hit it up with all different layers and work with a bunch of different healers, rather they're chiropractors or massage therapists or light language, which I also do. Um, and the person just has to be open for it. And sometimes I think we're coming out of the dark ages of, no pain, no gain, into being like, I'm a sensitive being, my body, if it's already hurting, why do you want to hurt me more? So I think we're realizing, especially with the new generation, they are more sensitive. These children are just amazing on their sensitivity, and they're not going to live the same kind of life that their parents lived, because all they see is a lot of stress, a lot of hard work, and then you can't even enjoy your life, and then you die, right? Like, so they're putting more meaning to that. So I think we're becoming um, more respectful of the spiritual side of healing, that it is encompasses all different layers and from all different lenses, and to have a team, a healing team.
And it's part of the whole, right? It's like we're not just skin bags and we're not just mental people and we're not like it's everything, right? And what you're saying is beautiful. It's like there's more and more space for the emotional in the healing, for the mental in the healing, for the spiritual in the healing, rather than no, this is just a skin bag and we need to fix whatever is in that, right? And I use that word because I heard it. I heard someone use it, and like an Indian person, kind of. I'm like, yeah, of course he would use it that way because they're much more connected to the spiritual aspects of the human being.
Yeah, and people are looking for other avenues. I'm able to work on a gentleman who has tried everything. He's in a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and he's open to all the fun, magical things that I can do, and it's helping him. And otherwise, he wouldn't have been open to that either, because the pills and traditional medicine hasn't been working. So I think that's probably why there's more of these healing centers that are opening up, which so people can find them, because people are looking for that. People are looking for something different and something that's a little bit more kinder versus barbaric for their healing. Um, something that's more love based instead of fear based for their healing. But it
So
starts.
yeah, yeah. All right, Kerrie, we're gonna move into our icebreaker question. So tell us a funny or silly or embarrassing story about yourself.
Oh, I was looking at that question earlier. I'm like, I can't think of anything. It's a rainy day. I'm kind of dreary. But I'm like, I don't know. There's so many funny. Okay, so this is a cute moment. I was working for Massage Envy for a short time, and I went to get up to do like a little bit of a head stretch, a little bit of traction. And I went to sit down, and the stool wasn't there, and I missed the stool. I was so like into supporting that person's head. I'm like, oh no, and my body fell, but I held the head, and they knew something happened, and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know if I'm okay. It's more important that you're okay. It almost happened the other day. That's why I'm reminded of that. I go to do the stretch, and I'm so much like in my zone and in my little trance when I'm working with a client. And I go to sit down, I'm like, wow, I almost missed that stool again. Maybe I shouldn't even have a stool. Just bring my table up or something. But I always laugh about that. Or, I don't have a lot of male clients. Males usually are a little bit more shy about coming for body work. But I had this one male client come, and he was sidelined because he had some issues, and I'm working on him, and and he goes to and he ended up farting. I'm like, that's the best compliment I could get from a client on my table, because when you could let go like that, I know you're comfortable. And I says, and I do that all the time, and I could have blamed it on the dogs or whatever, right? But it allowed him to be more comfortable, because I knew he was a little bit embarrassed by it, because he was sidelining. I was actually on top of like his hip a little bit. Um, so just kind of making it a little bit more fun when we have silly things or socially unacceptable things like a belching or a fart, or silly things that we could do like when we're klutzy about something too.
Which is so good because as another massage therapist, it's true. Like people are embarrassed by those things, even though it happens to all of us every single day. But still, when you're one on one in those situations, you do feel embarrassed. So to be able to put them at ease in a funny way, like, yeah, that happens to me too, or look, the dog might be doing it. It just makes them feel more comfortable on your table, and ultimately, that's what you want. I had a new client yesterday, this older lady, and she's like, do I leave my bra on? Do I leave? I'm like, you leave on whatever makes you comfortable. I can work with whatever, like the ultimate goal is for you to be comfortable. If that means you leave your bra and underwear on, great. It means you want to take your bra off, that's fine too. Like, you're the one who's in charge of your comfort level, not me. Like, I'm going to work with whatever you give me. And she was like, oh, okay, that's good. That's good.
What that is, right? Yeah, I could work with people fully clothed, or whatever works for them, because you got to kind of meet them where they're at, like, and
Exactly.
fit a certain program. Oh no, you have to like be naked, or you have to be dressed, or whatever. So it's nice when people are going into a healing room knowing that they have control of it. And that's
So
what I tell people. If you don't like something I'm doing, I'm like, I have no feelings. So you could tell me anything. And I joke around about that. Because I'm like, I much prefer you to say something to me now, because I could change it. And there's so many things that you could choose off my little smorgasbord that we could work with whatever is to your liking. And that also is part of healing, that they could speak up. Because I've
yeah,
been in a situation before, getting a massage, and the lady was hammering on my upper traps. I'm like, that's a little too much, and she just kept going and kept going. And I wish I had the nerve. I wish I had the respect for myself to say something about it. But sometimes you feel more vulnerable when you are totally disrobed and on a healing table, that you can't speak up, but you need to speak up, because that's about you. And that's one thing I always tell my clients. This is about you. You don't like the music. You don't like the dogs in the room. You don't like the color of my blanket. I said, tell me, because I could change it. I emptied my closet. I have 100 blankets, probably 100 towels in there, a bunch of bubbles. Trust, like, I'll actually show people, like, if you're not comfortable, trust me, I could make you comfortable. I have plenty of stuff to help with that.
yeah. I also like to tell new clients, your massage is always going to be perfect if you communicate. But if you don't communicate, we don't know if it's too much pressure, not enough pressure, the room's too cold. But if you can communicate, it's always going to be your perfect massage, because then you're in charge of it. And as soon as you can teach them that, they're going to be your client for life, because they know you're listening, they know they're in control, and it's always going to go perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good. Yay.
Well, I'm listening and I'm like, well, but that's also a little daunting because it takes it like you have to be vulnerable to ask for what you like. You have to be willing to be vulnerable to ask for what you need, right? And I think that's one of our biggest challenges, right? More so for women probably because we don't want to be an intrusion. We don't want to be too much. We don't want to be in somebody's face. We don't want, So it's fascinating because it's counterproductive not to speak up. And at the same time, it takes something, right? It takes the courage, even though you get the invitation to do that, right? It takes the courage to say, you know what, that actually doesn't quite work for me, right? So
And
it's,
it's women are. want this. They trust more than a guy. So guys find it harder to be vulnerable in a healing situation than a woman, but women, I think, feel more comfortable knowing that they're coming to a nurtured space. Guys just aren't comfortable coming to that nurtured space um, as much, like because they feel like they have to be the tough guy. And I think we're coming out of that as well, where, you could come in the room, you could break down, cry, whatever, because most guys think they have to be tougher.
Well,
Um,
I think that's the stereotypes too, right? That's definitely the stereotypes of you have to be tough and the allowing yourself to be vulnerable and talk about you and be willing to share is something that in our society, I don't know where I read that the only place that men can express themselves, like their emotions, is in watching a sports game. And I'm like, wow, that's really limited, right? If that's the only place where they can express their passion, they're really boxed in, really boxed in. So yeah, beautiful. So, Kerrie, what made you who you are today? And that could be what was your biggest lesson, or what took the most courage, or when did you stand up for something that mattered? So it might be one question, might be all of them, however you want to answer that.
what made me what I am today? I just remember always being connected and wanting to be with nature as a kid. I always liked things that were a little bit quieter. Um, I liked just hanging out with this big rock in our back side yard that still had some woods to it. And when it would, so connecting to nature, I believe really made me um, who I am today, and just always leading from my heart. Um, Trying to understand the world from because I didn't understand it like a normal child. I had to go to special classes when I was young, and my neighbor, Mrs. Davino, who's up in heaven now, I would go over there and she would help me because I didn't learn like the other children did. ADD, I don't know. I had some kind of audio delay thing going on, but uh, that extra, I never felt like it was wrong that I was a little different. I always felt, oh yeah, I get to go see Mrs. Davino, or oh good, I get to have one-on-one. So I always did really good in smaller smaller classes and stuff like that. Um, so sometime, I think growing up, just being a little bit more observant and sensitive. Like I never really talked much growing up. My sister always talked for me, even though she was older, 2 years older than me. So I think that pretty much formed who I was, is just being quiet and being able to listen more as a child. And throughout my whole life, just trying to understand, why am I doing the things that I'm doing, and where's always being guided by my passion. I always had a low tolerance for doing a job that I didn't like to do. I would try something, oh yeah, try it, but if it didn't work out, I would be like, okay, I gotta leave. This isn't for me. So I was usually very good about following my passion. Even though my husband now calls me the job gypsy, he'll tell me. I'm like, yeah, but it's all related. Everything relates to everything else. Like with the dogs, I've always, worked with dogs, and horses were something new as a kid, following that passion of working with horses. And the horses really have taught me more about working with people, especially in massage school. One of the classes was kinesiology or something. I understood it because I have to understand movement as a trainer, horse trainer. And so a lot of that I understood, and they taught me, the horses taught me so much on how to work with somebody's body and understand it more, because I understand the movement of a four-legged animal who's also super, super sensitive.
Mm. So many nuggets of gold in there. I'm not sure where I want to jump in first. But I loved when you were talking about how you had some like learning issues when you were younger, but that that actually made you love learning because you had that specialized, you had a special teacher and smaller classes, and that you really could thrive in those when you were in the right environment, which is so cool because I don't think that's most people with learning issues. I don't think that's their experience from a younger child, right? They're like more like, oh, I struggled until whatever, high school or whatever. But how cool that.
Inadequate, not good enough, whichever
Right,
whichever word you want to use for that.
right, and it's out for me. It sounded like you felt like special because of it, and how cool, right? That's your perspective of it, and I think that probably speaks a lot to your parents and your educators and the whole team that you had around you, which is really special in and of itself.
Yeah.
Really cool. So, what would you say your superpower is, Kerrie?
Oh, what is it? What is it? I have so many. um, I I would say, and I think some people that know me will agree with me, I always lead from the heart. Um, and learning from what just feels good to me, and knowing that it's okay to do things that feel good for me because it helps me to heal and it helps me to help other people. So yeah, I think that's probably my superpower is being able to lead enough from my heart that I understand other people's hearts, even if other people don't think they deserve the love or respect. I know they are a soul having an experience too. So I always lead from my heart.
Mm.
The other one is I'm very open-minded for
And
new.
you're curious, you're a lifelong learner. Yeah. And you're a good listener, right? You're an observer.
Yeah, you have to talk to my husband about that one because he thinks I talk too much. But I am a pretty good listener. I think sometimes when he comes home, I'm so excited about what happened with a dog or a client. I just want to summarize it for him, like how it made me feel. And he's like, "Can I tell you about my day? Like, you just talk so much," which is kind of funny because my first husband, he never allowed me to talk. And this one is like, she just doesn't shut up now, So it's interesting through my husband's how different I am, right? How
Yeah.
I like the first one, I didn't understand why I married him, but I went to counseling knowing and telling him, I'm just doing this so I could understand why I needed you in my life because I don't want to have that same kind of relationship. And doing that therapy really helped me to come into my own. And then I found a guy. I mean, honestly, my second husband is very opposite of my first husband, you know?
Beautiful.
Well, you learned the lessons from the first one, so you didn't need one like that again, right? So,
Exactly, yeah.
Mhm.
which is good because a lot of us don't learn the lessons and we keep choosing that same type over and over again, right? So kudos to you for doing the work to really see that, like, going into therapy knowing that is a pretty profound start to therapy, right? Like, oh, I want to see why I needed him. I don't think that's the thing most people go in. Most people go in wanting to be like, what did he do wrong? And like, so I think yeah, I think that's pretty spectacular. Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the time you took a chance for love. And it's not necessarily romantic love, or it doesn't have to be romantic love. When did you take a chance for love?
The story of finding my horse comes up when you're saying that. Um, because I went with a client and a friend who was looking for a smaller type horse because she was very short, maybe 4'2". So we spent a whole weekend looking for horses, and I I was a horse trainer, so I wasn't looking to get a horse, but I saw this horse running up from the pasture with all these older horses, and all I saw was his aura, and I'm like, oh my God, who's that? And the lady's like, oh, that's one of the 2-year-olds. I'm like, I was just like, I'm not looking for a young horse either. I was pretty busy. Um, And I'm like, wow, who is that? I'm like, I want to see him move too, right? And we go into this little pen, and this is in New York State somewhere. And I'm like, wow, there's just something so special about him. I said, I I wasn't, and I took a chance on it because I just felt so connected to this horse who I still have today. He's 24 years young, and he's just been a blessing in my life. He's just been, I just there's a connection, and that that um there's no question that, oh, we found each other. And now, I mean, he was just such a great, just a great guy overall. Even as a 4-year-old, which is young for a horse, I knew I could trust him with my semi handicapped kid that I was teaching. I didn't teach a lot of kids at the time because I didn't start writing until I was older. But I'm like, I could trust him with him. He just had an old soul, you know. He was just a great horse, and now he's at a therapeutic riding center helping um, other people, which is really nice. I go see him probably once a week. So that was definitely a chance. That was both of the chances on love that I'm thinking about, of course, have to do with animals. um, the other one is when I was going to grooming school, and we went through the dog pound because they shared their pound with a couple of local towns. And I'm walking through, and I saw this dog barked at me, and my heart went papoom at my heart center. And then he barked at me again, a little black dog. And then I'm like, wow, I'm like, he's really hitting me hard, right? I already had 2 dogs at home. And it just like really went into my heart. And then it was around Thanksgiving time, and I'm like, well, some other person was looking at the dog that has a kid. I'm like, well, let's just see what happens. I said, he said, oh, I'll give the dog to you. You could have the dog when the time is up. I'm like, no, well, I don't want to take a dog away from a kid. Let's just see what happens. So after the Thanksgiving break, I went through the dog kennel again because we do that. We name that breed or what mix, to learn about breeds when I groomed. And I saw him again. He barked at me again, and it went from my heart to my core. It was like, like it was crazy. Like, I'm like, wow, he is definitely my dog. I mean, it's pretty obvious. He's my dog and my healer. His nickname, you might have to bleep this, was Little Fucker because he's a badass little guy. He was fully intact, and he was a badass guy. He was small, maybe 14 pounds or something. Um, and he was such a healer. He was a badass dog, but he also was extremely loyal. People would be scared of him at first, but he was extremely loyal. He was a black Chihuahua Terrier mix. He was just, and he was the one that would be on my healing table. And he was just like, just an amazing, amazing dog. He just like literally rocked me to the core when I saw him. And it was just amazing. So, and it was like, yeah, this has to be my dog. And brought him home to my 2 other German Shepherd mixes, and he was great. And he brought this whole new life into our family because he was maybe 9 months old or something. I don't know.
It's so special, unconditional love that pets bring into our life. Like, I can get that that's so easy to like when we ask about this question, that's what comes into your world because it's just pure unconditional love that they bring into our world.
Yeah, they bring.
And if you're lucky to get those spirit guides, then it's just a whole nother level of special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a chance on love. It was like, oh yeah, this is my dog, or that's my horse. I remember after divorcing my first husband and, dating again, man, that was a lot of work. I mean, some of the guys were great, and but yeah, I think when I met Mike, I was like, I did take a chance on him because I'm like, well, he's not my typical guy, whatever. We met through mutual friends, and I'm like, well, I don't know. And he went to kiss me. I'm like, oh no, like I pretended I had a boyfriend or something. And then when he left, I'm laying there, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I didn't feel good about rejecting him. And I'm like, what is this about? So I really did follow my feelings on that. I'm like, and I sent him a text. I'm like, I just need to talk to you about what happened. He's like, well, and I know he had a date with somebody. I said, well, it doesn't matter. It could be, I think that obviously it happened earlier in the week. I'm like, I'd love for you to come over. And he's like, well, I'm busy on Friday, maybe Saturday. And then he ended up canceling his date Friday so he could come talk to me. And I just needed to explain about my first relationship and get everything on the table. But I felt really safe with him to do that, you know? So I guess that was kind of like taking a chance on love for the human form, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all trusting your intuition too, right? Like, mm-hmm. Like first there was that fear-based conversation that came up. You're like, oh, I don't know about this, right? But then when you really got a chance and really got to trust your intuition, you're like, oh, I need to talk to this guy, right? Like, yeah.
Those
Mm,
feelings are there for a reason.
yeah. So Kerrie, what would you say fills you up? What recharges your batteries so that you have what it takes to keep giving for doing massage and dog training and all the stuff you do?
I I really I love watching the puppies play. Um, because I work with young puppies and it just is so pure watching them play and that fills me up. Just watching my dogs enjoying their time, or we went to do went camping with a bunch of girls, glamping, and seeing how my dog Pippi was really enjoying herself. It just made me so happy to see her so content. Um, yeah, and just being around that group of women, which Martina's part of, we're trying to do it quarterly. It's huge in feeling. It's been a huge leap into my own self on who I truly am than anything else I've done in my life, to be honest with you. Because I'm like, I'm not missing one of these because I get so much out of it. Like, some person like, we have to do this quarterly, to our fearless leader, Stephanie. And I'm going to make sure I make as many as I can. But the, the power of the women when we get together and work on each other is just so amazing in that community spirit of the intention and the pure love and the healing that really, really gives me this extra like boost, like who needs that coffee espresso or all those crazy bull poop drinks or whatever you call them. Hungry bull, I forgot what they are. Um, so that fills me up when we're together and we're just doing that. I love the ocean. We go to the ocean a couple times a year and I could just sit there and just be in that vortex of land, air, and the water. It's just so beautiful. And seeing my horse, you just hanging out with my horse in the pasture and just sitting there and just being in his being in his essence fills me up too. And of course I do tons of self-care stuff.
Awesome. Martina, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Look at that. So if you had a magic wand and you could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
Hmm. I honestly feel, and I'm getting really emotional saying this. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It's okay. I want people to feel that feeling of bliss and peace in their body, mind, and soul. Because when I started feeling more of that, those blissful, peaceful moments, it was like, wow, this is what I should be more. I wish I could find this more throughout my day, my day to day, instead of always feeling like I'm in that stress state. And I think that will help a lot with diseases. And I learned about this from on my road, um, to me not feeling very well and having an autoimmune disease and blah blah blah, and knowing that most of the disease does come from stress, right? Same thing with animals. And just for someone to really feel like they can own and they're worthy of this blissful, peaceful, loving state of peace, and we should be there all the time, and to allow them to feel it so they could build on it instead of feeling like they always have to be in that stress zone, right? Where we can't think and we could be led like sheep and we are drawn away from our heart versus being in that thriving state, which we call the parasympathetic state, that wow, I could actually feel this way and feel this freaking awesome. Like, that's just amazing to feel that way. That's been amazing for me. And I hope I give that to each client that's on my table, or people that I just smile and say hi to. I wish they could feel that more in their own lives.
Yeah. Bliss and peace. That peace is just like, ah, like what's available if you can stay present to whether you're there or not, right? Like, oh, I'm not there. What can I do to get back there, right? Like, right before our call today, I was running errands at like 8 o'clock this morning. I had to have my car at the mechanic at 10. And I was like, okay, how long is this going to take? And they're like, hour, 15 minutes. I was like, perfect. Just enough time. But around an hour and 45 minutes, I'm starting to stress about like, oh my God, I got to leave. I got to be on this call. And I was like, oh, so how about instead of stressing about is your car going to be ready, you just tune into your angels and just intend it's just all done on time.
Yep.
Let's just get grounded. And poof, right? The stress goes away. I'm back in charge. And I'm not like, and then it just happened. And then next thing you know, my little text came up. Here's your little video of your car. It's past everything. And I walked up to the service and she's like, oh, I was coming to get you. And I was like, oh, look how perfect this all works out. And that's really all there ever is to do, right? Because life is always working out for us. It's always working out. We just our thoughts get in the way sometimes, right? So if you can get present to like, oh, I am creating stressful thoughts. Can I get back on track of having happy thoughts, right? Like happiness is just something we choose in the moment. We forget that, right? We think it's a place to get to instead of a choice we make in every moment. So good. So good. Hmm. So what are you most grateful for, Kerrie?
Oh, wow. What am I most grateful for? Probably my parents.
Hmm.
Um, I wouldn't be here without them. Yeah, my parents are just amazing. Sorry, it's very emotional. Um, yeah, I was first going to say that everything, my my all the opportunities I've had, I'm just so grateful for all those opportunities and being led to that. But that leads to my parents. My parents are just amazing people in their own right, and everything that I'm motivated to do, like to take certain classes to help my mom with her issues, and just learning from my dad, who has a huge heart, and my mom that has all this amazing talent. Like all the quilts in my house she has made, they're just beautiful and magical. And just the experience that I've had with them as my parents and growing up the way I did, and all the experience I've had really made me to where I am today. And I'm like, I'm just so grateful. Like every day, I'm like, wow, I could be this person. This is awesome. Like I could be part of this magical world instead of this other thing. Like it's beautiful to have that. And my parents have this interesting contrast because one is super positive and one's a little bit more on the negative. So to see the contrast, right, as in Abraham Hicks says, that's how we know what we do want and what we don't want, by seeing contrast. So I picked a good set of parents, like Aaron, my siblings, we're all so different. And just learning from the line of the habits that I was born into that are helping me with this lifetime has been pretty amazing. So yeah, my parents for sure.
Beautiful. Hmm.
What do you want people to remember about you?
Hmm. Huh. Been a job gypsy. uh, that I always, how great it was that I had the freedom. I gave myself the freedom of following my heart with things that I wanted to do. Rather, it was to be a horse trainer, which was, I didn't grow up riding horses. So to be a horse trainer starting in the early 20s, that I just was always following my passion, and not afraid of taking those chances, and switching my life around. Like my dad stayed with the same company for a long time, and I'm a job gypsy. I love to follow my passion, and I'm curious about so many things. I don't want to be stuck doing one thing, and yeah, there's so much out there, and just being appreciative for everything and being as loving as I can be. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So, Kerrie, you have a couple of businesses. So, there's your opportunity to tell our guests about your businesses and how they can contact you. We will include all your information and the contacts at the end of the podcast, but just as your opportunity to let people know what you do and how they can reach you.
Well, the job gypsy. So I have my name of my bodywork business is Soul Bodywork, and you can find me on soulbodywork.net. That's SOUL. And there you could book on my site. I use Massage Book, and if people are not knowing what they need or want, you just call me or text me, which is also on my website. If you're interested in dog training and understanding dogs more from the dog's point of view and learning how to communicate with them and work with them with their wisdom and your wisdom, I have magicdogvibes.com. And you could get my phone number there as well. But I love working with people and their animals. Any questions? I just tell people, send me a texting's always better than anything else. So email always gets lost.
And you're in Connecticut, so just so that
Yeah.
we know that, like that area.
Yeah, I'm in Connecticut. I could help people remotely with some healing things and dog training. But of course I always like to get my hands on people.
Awesome. Kerrie, thank you so much for being here with us today, for playing, and for bringing your incredible personality and smile. For those who aren't watching this live, Kerrie has the most amazing smile. And just thank you for everything that all the energy that you're putting out into the world, for all the people's bodies that you're healing. Thank you for vibing up this planet and having so much fun here with us today. Thank you, everyone, for being here and listening. If you loved this, please leave us a review, share with your friends, and please always remember you are extraordinary and you rock. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye for now. Kerrie, you want to say bye?
Bye. Thank you.